Hello everyone, just completed these two units of Cossacks for my Crimean War project. Eureka figures, 18mm scale, so they're a little bit of an odd scale. Don't really fit in with any other ranges out there. They're much bigger than the sort of standard 15mm scale. Not that I'm aware of that many Crimean War 15mm ranges in general, or sort of comprehensive ranges. I chose a long time ago to go down the Eureka route, and I'm committed to it now, so I have to stick with it. But as the years have gone by, there does seem to have been an increase in the number of 28mm figures available out there. But been watching, obviously, David's progress. David at the Zen Miniature Painting Studio YouTube channel, watching his progress on his Crimean War project in 28mm. And I think now the situation is that Eureka have got a reasonably comprehensive range, and if you're going to war game the Crimean War in 28mm scale instead, there is now a kind of an equivalent availability of figure types, troop types out there. But in terms of the 28mm, you have to sort of shop around between different ranges, and that forces you down this route of having to put figures on the table that aren't necessarily compatible in terms of the definition of what 28mm scale is, and the actual aesthetics of the ranges do vary considerably as well. So at least with Eureka, I mean, there are definitely gaps in the range that I've spoken about in the past, things like artillery limbers and so on. There are definitely gaps, but at least all the figures do match one another. I sort of got back into, well, I was reinvigorated about 2 years ago. I think it was the Warlord Games Open Day 2023 announced that they were going to bring out a Crimean War supplement for black powder. So I sort of, that perked my interest up again, and I started to work on a Russian army to use against my British, and I'm fairly well, I've progressed fairly well, even though it's been nearly 2 years since I started doing that. I have got along fairly well, but still not there. And it as expected, there's no sign of the supplement coming out from Warlord yet. They do tend to be very tardy in the. They announce these things, and then it can be years, before the supplements actually arrive. So I'm keeping up with them, even though I am painting very slowly. Yeah, but in terms of, let me just zoom in a little bit so that you can get slightly better. Try and get something. It's not gonna. Doesn't look like it's going to focus in any much better than that. Yeah, in terms of these Cossacks in particular, and being committed to this range, so having to buy these Cossacks, having to put them in my army, they're not. How can I put it? If I wish that they had Eureka had designed these Cossack figures slightly differently. They just strike me as having a generic Cossack look to them. Whereas in the Crimean War, there were principally two different groups of Cossacks. So there were the Don Cossacks, who you typically see portrayed wearing a blue tunic and trousers and a shako with a peaked peaked shako that's usually covered with a sort of an oilskin waterproof covering. So they are quite distinctive. But the other type of Cossacks were the Caucasian Cossacks. More typically, you see they do wear a kind of it's a slightly different look tunic to them, but their headgear in particular is a much broader cap than what these figures have. Very kind of broad brimmed fur surround, and the top is a lot more conical. So it doesn't look anything like the headgear that these figures are wearing. So you just have to wonder a little bit where Eureka got that idea from. And then, of course, as you can see, they're all wearing greatcoats, which is a very convenient way with lots of different periods of being able to put a sort of generic looking group of figures on the table without actually having to portray more accurately the type of tunics that they would have been wearing underneath. So they're quite bland, I suppose, is what I'm saying. They have made some interesting, accurate depictions. So, for instance, the lances don't have pennants, whereas the lancers, the Russian lancers and the British lancers do have pennants on their models, cast on. So they've made an accurate choice there, because the Cossacks didn't have pennants on their lances. So they have followed some historical detail there and accuracy. But then there are other things like you can't see it at all on these figures, and I'll have to try to turn one around to show you. But over their left shoulder, they're wearing a kind of pouched sling. No idea really where that comes from. I've never seen it portrayed on any illustrations of Cossacks, or found any written details of it. So I'm not quite sure where they got that idea from. And then other things, like pistol holsters on the horse furniture and blanket rolls and so on. I think it's all a lot more generic, as I say, rather than being a precise detail that they've chosen to put on there. But then, as I say, they have made that choice not to put pennants on, which was the correct one. So you don't know, never know how much of this is accurate detail and how much stems from imagination. The same would have applied if I had gone down the 28mm route all those years ago. That I am reaching that point now where there are going to be gaps in the army, just as there would be if I'd chosen 28. And long term, the hope that I have is that maybe some stage someone will bring out some STL files so that I could print some figures on my 3D printer. And then, of course, the big advantage of 3D printing is that you can rescale them so that you can increase the size or decrease the size down to fit in with the figures that you have in your collection already. So that would be a nice solution, because very much doubt if Eureka are ever going to add to their range. It's been static for probably decades now, so doubt very much that they're going to add to it. So still got a fair amount of cavalry to do, and then some command figures, and then at least I will have two armies, not complete to my satisfaction, but I will have two armies that I'll be able to use to try out the supplement when it does finally arrive. Anyway, that's all I have to say on these figures. They're nice. I do like the Eureka range. They have a lot of dynamism in the figures. The metal is a little bit soft and bendy, but I can live with that. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye for now.